Welcome to another Walter Football video. I'm Charlie Campbell, Senior Draft Analyst. Before we get rolling here, I suggest you speed it up to 1.25 or 1.5. I think that makes these videos a lot better. All right, let's get into a few topics here. Number one, the big issue that could that could shake up the 2021 NFL Draft is if the Houston Texans trade Deshaun Watson. Now, I've reached out to people around the league. I spoke with staffers at the Texans, and I do think a trade could definitely happen. And at this point, I would say it's trending to more likely to happen than not happen. It sounds like the relationship between Watson and the team is just disintegrating. The relationship not only with Watson but with other top players at the team and former top players at the team, things are getting really toxic there. It is a dysfunctional organization. This is what happens when you have just a cancerous person like Bill O'Brien running the show there. It's led to a lot of bad hires and bad moves like Jack Easterby coming to the team, and then you have an owner and Cal McNair that's absolutely clueless. So now you have a front office and a team that loses a functional relationship with the future of their franchise and Deshaun Watson. What Bill O'Brien inherited when he pushed Rick Smith out of the door with Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless, Zach Cunningham, Bernard Rick McKinney. What they had in place there to see this just completely disintegrate is really in some ways sad and unfortunate, but that's the direction things are trending with the Texans and Deshaun Watson. Now, with the roster being in a rough shape because of the moves that O'Brien made, they have a lot of needs. They aren't going to have money to spend because O'Brien did a lot of bad contracts over the past few years, so they don't have picks, they don't have money, their roster's depleted. Trading Deshaun Watson in some ways would be a way to bring about a new core for that team, getting a ton of picks for him, and then rebuilding that core and then getting picks and money back next year and in the years to come. And talking with people at Houston, they said next year in 2022, their money situation should be a lot better, and obviously they'll have picks because the Laramie Tunsil trade would have been paid off at that point. But right now, still the relationship with Watson's trending towards a trade. So let's look at some of the trade partners. Who could pull it off? Who would want to and can't? Let's just get into all that. Okay, number one, Jets are in the driver's seat. The Jets have the best amount of resources at their disposal to pull a trade off. They are flush with draft picks because they have 2 first-round picks this year, including the 2nd overall pick. Then they have the Seahawks pick in the early 20s. Then next year, they have their first-round pick. They have the Seahawks first-round pick. They also have some extra capital on day 2 this year, and they have Sam Darnold as well. So the Jets are in the best position. The Dolphins are in the 2nd best position. They have the 3rd overall pick this year. Then they have another pick in the top 20. They have 2 2nd-round picks. So they have a little bit more to offer if it's just for this year in terms of a trade package. But the Jets have more to offer if you were to spread it over 2 years. And now both of these teams have a young quarterback they could send in return. So Nick Caserio, the new Texans general manager, he can make the decision where if I take one of those young quarterbacks, would I rather have Tua Tagovailoa or Sam Darnold, or would I rather draft Zach Wilson or Justin Fields? Now, these other guys have some NFL tape. They were, top 10 picks in their recent draft class. So in some ways, you might be able to say they're a little bit safer commodities than Justin Fields and Zach Wilson, where Fields, 1.5-year starter, has some pocket awareness issues, needs to develop pocket passing. Zach Wilson is basically a one-year wonder at BYU in terms of one really dominant year. And while he's really smart, really confident, excellent recall, good skill set, he also has some football character concerns, being kind of a me first spoiled rich kid, according to NFL team sources, and a guy who in some ways might have some issues in the NFL in terms of just kind of meshing with an organization. But we've hit on all that before. But anyways, so that would be the question that Caserio has to answer first and foremost. Would he want one of those quarterbacks? Let's say he is willing to take Sam Darnold and he wants to build around him with a whole ton of picks from the Jets. If you take Sam Darnold, then I think what it would take to get Deshaun Watson from the Jets is the Jets' 2 first-round picks this year, and then another first-round pick in 2022. If Sam Darnold's in the deal, then I think you give the Seahawks first-round pick because that one's going to be later. Or if Sam Darnold is not in the deal, then you get 3 first-round picks back, and I think the Jets send their first-round pick in 2022 along with their 2 first-rounders this year. It's going to cost 3 first-round picks to get Deshaun Watson at a minimum. And if you throw in a young quarterback, then maybe you can drop that to a lower one. Now, let's say for the Dolphins, let's say the Jets feel it's too pricey. We're not going to do it. Miami, though, is willing to do it for what it would take for them. I think it would take their 2 first-round picks this year and then their first-round pick next year. So that's 3 first-round picks. Now, if Caserio is willing to take Tua, then maybe next year's pick becomes a second rounder. Or they could do a second rounder this year and Tua. But for the young quarterback in the deal, that just drops the price, the value a little bit of that 3rd first-round pick. But it's going to take something like that to get Watson. And that would give the Texans a lot of picks, and potentially you take one of these young quarterbacks, and now you can build a lot of talent around him. They could trade other guys, try and do some veteran fire sales, build up some more day 2 mid-round capital. And Caserio could also, if he takes one of those young quarterbacks like Tua or Sam Darnold, he could trade down from 2 or 3 potentially for a team that wants Fields or Wilson, and then add more draft capital. So that could be a way for the Texans to rebuild that roster by using Deshaun Watson to just start the process of getting a ton of picks in there. The problem is it just gives you such a sick feeling in your stomach to trade one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he's extremely young and has another potential 10, maybe 15 years left in him. That just is such a tough pill to swallow. But this is what happens when you have bad ownership, like clueless ownership, like the McNairs, and they hand the team over control to guys that just don't know what they're doing and have egos and tempers and are emotional and make decisions out of emotion, and that would be Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby. So the chickens are coming home to roost for this franchise, and Caserio is going to have to clean up the mess. Now let's get into some other teams that could be interested aside from the Jets and Miami. I think the Jets and Miami are the 2 teams that would most likely get Deshaun Watson. Other teams, of course, are going to want him and are going to be interested. You could have the Panthers already have been rumored for it. Washington obviously needs a long-term quarterback. The Bears need one. The Saints, Steelers, if their older guys retire, you could see them wanting him. Of course they would want him. But the problem is all these teams just do not have the resources that the Jets and Dolphins, because the Jets and Dolphins are just flush with draft picks, so they can make this happen much easier than these other teams because these other teams don't have multiple first rounders. Now, of that group, Panthers, Washington, Chicago, Saints, Steelers, Lions. The Lions would probably be the best because they have they could offer something like their first round pick, a top 10 pick, Matthew Stafford, who's 32, is going to need a new contract, but at least at 32 he still has years left in him, and he's a good quarterback. And then you could throw in maybe something like Jeff Okudah from last year. So that's essentially a first round pick this year, last year's first round pick, and then Matthew Stafford. So the Lions could put something together that would be interesting for the Texans. And the bonus that the Lions have over the Jets and Dolphins is trading Watson into the NFC. So that is definitely something teams would consider. Obviously, there's no way the Texans would say trade Deshaun Watson to the Colts, and the Colts need a quarterback of the future. Just automatically, it doesn't matter what the Colts offer, really. You're not going to trade him within the division. You prefer to trade him to the NFC over the AFC, but in terms of capital and what you're getting back for your rebuild, if you're Houston, Miami and the Jets have a lot more to offer. Maybe that Detroit offer is something to consider potentially if the Lions did that, but still, in terms of draft capital, the Jets and Dolphins are really in the driver's seat to getting Deshaun Watson. Jets probably slight lead over Miami because they have extra first-round picks in 2022. All right, so that's kind of where it looks right now with the Deshaun Watson trade front. I'll keep digging. When I get stuff, I'll pass it along, of course, so stay tuned. But it's a fluid situation. Maybe the Texans can mend the fences there, bring them back into the fold. The head coach hire could be really important for that. So we'll see. But definitely right now, just from talking with people at Houston and talking with people around the league, I think the situation, it reminds me of Jay Cutler in Denver when McDaniels went there, and just the relationship with Cutler and the organization just soured to the point where they were trading a young quarterback away who had plenty of good years left in him. So it kind of reminds me of that, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Deshaun Watson ends up getting traded here before the 2021 NFL Draft. All right, next topic I want to hit on is Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. Really interesting hire. I think this has the potential to be good, and it has the potential to blow up. I think Walt did a good job in his grade of it. I think memory serves, he gave it a C. And it makes sense because Urban Meyer is a guy who tucks and runs when the going gets tough. He builds up programs. He's willing to make exceptions for bad character to get good talent onto the team to win in the short term. But then as that bad character issues kind of bubble up and create some controversy, he tucks and runs, he quits, he retires, a health issue. That's just been the story with him. So with that being the case, it is critical for the Jaguars to hire a good general manager and someone that can tell Urban no, because Urban Meyer has zero experience running a draft room. He has zero experience managing an NFL salary cap. So, yeah, he knows a ton of people in the NFL. He's close with Belichick and all these other coaches. He's known them for years. So he knows plenty of people to hire that could be good front office people with the Jags, but he needs to hire someone that is willing to tell him no. Say if he gets greedy in terms of really wanting a veteran and the price is just, getting too high in free agency, you don't want to squander the salary cap and blow it and kind of pull a Bill O'Brien and do a bunch of bad contracts and trade away a bunch of picks to just try and win right now, this minute, and then you end up putting the franchise in a really difficult situation a year or two later. So that's going to be, I think, the issue with Urban. I think he needs that strong, experienced NFL general manager that will tell him no, and he will listen to that general manager and not force him out the door and get him fired the way, say, Bill O'Brien did with Brian Gaine after pushing Rick Smith out. It's just ridiculous. So at any rate, that's what I think is critical for Urban Meyer. to have a successful run in Jacksonville. Otherwise, it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't have that kind of general manager, that in year 2 or 3 they have some success and win well with Trevor Lawrence. He has a nice little run there, and then come year 4, year 5, they may have some tough losses, and then controversy starts happening because that's the history with him, and then he quits and he's out the door, and there's a big mess for someone to clean up in terms of character within that building and culture within that organization. So having a good general manager is going to be critical for the Jaguars to have success with Urban Meyer. Last thing I wanted to hit on was Joseph Ossai, edge rusher linebacker from Texas. I had a hot press on him last week. You guys can check the link below. I talked with sources at a handful of teams. They all had him graded on day 2. I know ESPN and some others have projected him to be a first-round pick, but I haven't heard that from teams. They feel that he has some skill set limitations, really is only a fit for a 3-4. Just instincts aren't great as well. Plays hard. Oklahoma State game was really impressive, but the production doesn't match that in other games for Texas this year. So this is the case as usual. We always get the media overhyping some players and prospects, and that's one I've heard about recently. So I just wanted to pass that along to you guys. Definitely check out our updated mocks. We're updating them every week, of course. All the way up through the draft and then draft week daily. We got the position rankings getting updated. I'm pumping out a ton of scouting reports these days, so those should be going up on the site every day, potentially multiple. So we just have a ton of draft content coming your way, and of course I'm going to be digging and digging and digging, getting more inside information and passing it along to you guys, because that's what I love to do, is get information for you. And I really appreciate you guys watching. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Please like the video and share it with your friends. Please subscribe to our channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Draft Campbell, and you can follow Walt on Twitter at Walter Football. But I'll be back with you guys again soon. I'll have another mock video coming out shortly, and I really appreciate you. I love you guys. You're awesome. Take care. Be safe. Stay healthy. I'll talk with you soon.